Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
The Todd-Cast is filmed before a live feline audience. Hi, everybody. We're back again. It's been a month.
Wow, we've been busy.
It's been a month.
Got a lot of things going on.
There's been a lot that's been happening. There's been a lot that's been going on. There's been a lot that's, it's just been, wow. Just wow. I went through an airport.
Yay. Yeah.
On my leg.
Easily, actually.
Yeah, surprisingly, it was good. I don't think I could have asked for better. It's part of what I want to talk about tonight. Yeah. TSA with a prosthetic. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be, well, it's not going to be as involved as I'm trying to present it to be right now, but it was important to me. So therefore, it's going to be important to everybody here. I mean, that's what we're just going to do. So, yeah.
Well, it was new, so we didn't really know what to expect.
Right, exactly.
So, and I think that the things we learned are going to be helpful for people traveling with any type of mobility device or any type of extras, that it's just good news and good knowledge to have. And TSA, say what you will, we had great people helping and amazing staff. So yeah, kudos to TSA.
I am always going to be on the side of TSA, considering when I was working at the airport and everything that they helped me with and everything that they helped my passengers with.
Yeah, right. So
we
had really great people that we were working with, and that was very nice. Both airports were great. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, I don't have enough time to praise them as much as I want to.
Well, I mean, we gushed.
We will. There will be gushing. There will be gushing.
And while your airport experience is definitely number one, I can also talk about what it's like to have a prosthetic that's not your leg.
Exactly.
And what you go through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's something I do want to talk about tonight as well. I want you to chime in on that portion as well, because while you didn't have the mobility challenge,
I still have a TSA challenge.
Yeah, I was going to say scanning is different.
Yeah.
Scanning is different.
Scanning is very different.
So we went to the Outer Banks. Let's all of this, cryptic talk. We actually traveled. We flew to the Outer Banks, North Carolina. We did a little beach vacation at the end of October.
Indeed.
And people are like, what, beach? Yeah. It's still warm.
Yeah.
Not in Colorado, so we went there.
And none of us had ever been to the Outer Banks before, and so it was a new experience for all of us.
I will admit that, yes, I have been to North Carolina before.
Well, you were what?
I was 3 or 4, actually.
I was
3
like,
or 4.
you were
tiny,
way before I was born. So,
well, I was old enough to remember walking on a boardwalk, seeing a little dogfish that got caught and left on the boardwalk. Yeah, which was sad. I remember seeing the bombing runs and the Marines out there doing their testing and all that.
So our uncle was stationed at Camp Lejeune. And Mom and Dad and Chuck went to visit
that.
They went to visit Uncle Wayne and his family when he was out there. So that was pre me.
Yeah,
I was not around yet.
It was an experience. I liked North Carolina then. I remember, I have fond memories of it. It wasn't that hot, that bad, that horrible. But I'll tell you, this last trip, I have a new favorite beach stay.
I know.
I have a new favorite beach stay.
It has stayed with me since we've been back. It is.
Yeah.
It's
we have
incredible.
a new place, everyone. Like,
Yeah.
it is, that I think that's one of the big surprises, because I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about. The surprises is how much we loved it, and how easy it was, and how cool it was, and how the people were like everything that you want a travel place to be. It was.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it was that's the big surprise.
And see, that's the thing I liked about it. Everything lined up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just lined up.
Yeah, it was so good.
Now, okay. Disclaimer. Yeah, there were some hiccups.
Of course.
Okay.
Travel.
I mean, it's travel.
There were some hiccups. Wow, that's real glitchy. Anyway, we are going to start talking about the good stuff.
Yeah,
and I want Kris, I want you to tell us about what you thought was good about this fantastical trip that we took.
I have 5 things.
Go for it.
And they are as follows.
I know.
And
I had to make notes, so I wasn't like, now what was
And they
one?
are starting from the worst to the best.
No, in no particular order. Number 1 was the beach. Surprising. It wasn't crowded. Yeah, we were at the very, very end of tourist season. So, there were far fewer tourists than there would be in the summer, but it still had, there were mornings we had the entire beach to ourselves, or there were maybe 2 other people on the beach. The sand was soft and white and gentle and very barefoot walkable. We found seashells. That was one of the reasons I chose North Carolina, or I wanted to go there, was because when I looked up where can you find good seashells, North Carolina came up. It got better as we went further south. So where we were in Kill Devil Hills, we really couldn't find whole shells, but we had a lot of fun trying.
There were a lot of fragments, a lot of broken.
Yeah. And it was still warm. We could enjoy ourselves in our swimsuits. Now the water had gotten cold. So Kat, I think, is the only one that dunked her head, got as far in as
I didn't even get in.
Whole body. I got in probably up to my waist. And yeah, that was probably it. I mean, I know you two got in above, like, to your ankles or so, but it was, I loved it. The other one that neither of you experienced, but Kat and I on Halloween went over to Roanoke, which is actually also on an island, but not the Outer Banks. So it may still be considered the Outer Banks, but it's another.
It's a barrier island within the channel. Yeah.
I have made a video specifically for that.
Yes, you did. It's amazing. We loved it. So we had booked a haunted tour, because what else would you do on Halloween? But okay,
we'll tell you what you did on Halloween.
We'll talk about it. Yeah. We'll talk about it.
But
wait till we get to us.
So Kat and I were the only two that were interested in doing this, because it was going to be a lot of walking and at night and yada yada. So we had booked that, but like an hour before it was going to start, they texted and said, due to an emergency, the tour has been canceled tonight. So bummer. Then what do we do? So I looked, and there were self-guided haunted tours for Roanoke. So that's what we did. And yes, Chuck definitely took our footage of walking on the boardwalk that goes through a swamp, that, like, you've got the water on one side and a swamp on the other side, and then eventually it's swamp on both sides, and pitch dark. There was no moon. It was a new moon on Halloween. And when we turned off our lights, and with all the foliage and everything, when we turned off the lights, it was pitch black. And so kind of scary to be walking on boards, knowing that you've got swamp on either side of you, and who knows what critters we saw.
Alligator. Name the movie. Go ahead.
It's the Muppet movie.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the Muppet movie.
Sorry.
We did see little red eyes reflecting, but they were too close together to be alligators unless they were little baby ones, but they were probably frogs. Mm-hmm. And because it's fall, you know, the leaves are falling, so it always sounded like something was coming behind you. And so we had a ball. It was so much fun. And we didn't know if we were allowed to be out there after dark because this part of the tour was, you know, it's designed for the daytime. And so we didn't know if we were allowed. But then we saw other people doing what we were doing. Maybe not on a haunted tour, but we're walking the boardwalk in the dark. So, okay. We thought, well, we're doing all right. But it was a lot of fun. And then from there, we made our way into the town, and they talked about the ship of the lost settlement. Mm-hmm. And so folks came over from England in the 1500s. The leader of them had to go back for supplies. And and then he was delayed by war and something else. And by the time he got back 2 years later, the colony had disappeared without a trace. No one was there. And just a couple of little hints of what might have happened, but it's still a big mystery as to what happened. So they have a replica of the ship. And for Halloween, there's like little spooky eyes in the windows. It was cute. And it was quite windy. So the pictures that we have and the video that we have, it looked quite dramatic. So it was fun. And then you walk into Roanoke itself, and there was a big Halloween festival going on. So like all of the kids with their costumes on and their parents and hot chocolate and cider and face painting and, you know, all the kind of carnival-y things that one would do. And so that was kind of winding down as we got into the town. But there was still a lot of activity. So we didn't quite get the spooky haunted experience that we probably could have had it been a more calm night of the week. But that's okay. It was Halloween. It was fun to watch all the little ones running around with their costumes and their little trick-or-treat bags and things. And they had a lot of there were 8 or 9 different stories, and you walked your way around. So it was a really great self-paced tour. I totally do it again. And the Roanoke looked like someplace to spend a lot of time. It looked just like an old English town or Irish town. There were a lot of Irish pubs there. And, you know, we just wanted to adventure, come back. I feel like, and maybe, and this is the bad, but so I'll get a little ahead of myself. You know, we got a taste of a lot of things. It was enough to go, wow, I'm hungry for more. I want to explore more. So that was number 2. Number 3 was just having downtime. The leading up to this, I'd been working on a big project at work and had hoped it would be finished by the time we left. One of the reasons we had to delay to the end of October was because of me, because of this project. And it was unfortunately not quite finished, but so intense. It was nice to just have that downtime. So that was, and the beach time. I feel like this vacation was perfect for what I needed. There was a good balance of things to do to kind of occupy my brain, but also just sitting on the beach and enjoying nature. So we had a little of both, best of both worlds. And the last 2, one was the Shipwreck Museum, was surprisingly good. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a small, it looked small, but it was packed with stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the space was them restoring things that have been recovered from shipwrecks. And so you got to see that activity going on kind of behind the glass. You know, they had a viewing panel. And the amount of information and the stuff that I learned, it was surprisingly good. Mm-hmm. Absolutely would go back there. And then the last thing I had were all of the lighthouses. It was a lot of fun. And I know that was a big goal for Alyce.
Me. That was my thing.
But I really, really enjoyed particularly the Body Lighthouse, which I'm wearing the shirt right here for the Body Lighthouse. was particularly, I think, my favorite of them all. So those were my goods.
All right. Well, right on. Okay, Alyce, you're up next on this.
So just a summary, we had 5 days that we were traveling. We were on the Outer Banks. We hit 4-ish islands. Counting. We were in Kildova Hills, which is close to Kitty Hawk, and then we drove down to Ocracoke, which hit us in some of the other islands. So we hit Hatteras Island, Duck Island, Pea Island, and then Ocracoke. So we got a good taste of the whole place and got to see a lot of country that we hadn't seen before. So that's one of my goods, is that we got to be in a place that we had never been, and we got to experience some things that we had never seen before. Big one for me, I wanted to go see lighthouses. That was one of my big things. I love coastal lighthouses. I think one of the cool aspects of them is the science and technology that is all about them and their purpose, and how something so simple is so integral in the safety of mariners. And from the dawn of time, it feels like they've been around forever. And yes, the technology is advanced and they don't use lard anymore to burn things, but it's just that those things make such a big difference in the safety. What I thought was really cool, and this was from the Shipwreck Museum, and that was one of the top museums I've ever been in, is that the fact that there's cold water coming from the north and warm water coming up from the south, and those two currents hit, and it creates this turbulent water where it's really hard to navigate. And that's why there's so many shipwrecks in that region of the world, is because that water doesn't really allow safe travel. So these lighthouses were imperative in guiding these ships around where they needed to go so they could get into land safely.
The nearer you get to the islands, the shallower the
water gets,
and the shifting water that you just described would move the sandbars.
So it was never the same. Like, you navigate it one season, and then the next season the sandbars were totally different. So it was very enlightening that way. So the knowledge that I gained on East Coast travel was really cool, and being in part of the world that I had never been in, and our time there allowed for us to do that. One of my goods was Kitty Hawk.
Oh, yes.
I think coming from the family that we come from, that, Chuck and I we were there on behalf of our dad. And then we were able to, the whole time I'm shooting little snippets of video on my phone and sending them to him. And here's where we're at. And he was so excited to get those videos and be a part of it without being there, but yet see it through our eyes, but see it. And he just was thrilled. It made his day. It made his year. It was really cool. So I think that was one of my goods. One of my goods was how Chuck and I spent Halloween night. It was so ridiculously, it was a typical Todd kid night. It was, if you wanted to know how we spent Friday nights.
Oh yeah.
This is it. This is the quintessential thing. And I had it on my Instagram, but we stayed at the hotel and we watched movies.
Yeah.
And Chuck was in his comfy cozies in his bed, and I was in the comfy cozies in my bed, and we were all sidled up and we were watching stupid 80s movies and quoting them the entire time.
I was back in my teens. She was back in the middle school age.
It was the best.
There we were.
It was the best. So our two movies of choice.
Here we go.
Were Summer Rental, because the entire trip was this is such a summer rental thing. So we watched Summer Rental. So yes, we love that movie. Yeah,
we are a John Candy fan.
We love that movie.
Fans. We are fans of John Candy. Yeah.
So we watched that, and then by the time we were done with that, Kris and Katie came back, and we started Clue.
You were into Clue by the time we got
Clue,
back.
But we finished it, and it was.
We got there just in time for the good stuff.
It was, if you want to know, a hot hopping Todd kid Friday night.
Oh yeah.
That was it.
Well,
and it was perfection. It was so good.
Exactly, because Clue was all of those big 80s stars. It was all in an ensemble cast that was.
It's such a great movie.
That was our hopping Friday. It was very fun, and we hadn't had that kind of time with you and I for a very long time. So it was really cool. It was just fun to be.
If you would send me that little snippet,
I'll try and find it. Yeah,
on the video of us watching Summer Rental, I'm gonna put it right here.
Here's a scene Ah, yes. Exciting and new. Come on. We're expecting you.
It was so good. It's so good.
And summer rental is one that I will happily miss every time.
I know.
So happy I was somewhere else.
Well,
glad you enjoyed yourself.
Well, the
glad
fact
I was elsewhere.
we can't watch that without, we quote the whole time. Like
That's
we shoot out lines the whole entire time. So anyway, that was fun for me. Couple other things, lighthouses galore. I loved it. I enjoyed the downtime as well. Beaches. I want to go back when it's a little bit warmer because I do want to get in the water.
Yeah.
The rip currents this time of year out there is pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
So that was by choice one of the reasons I stayed out of the water. Just didn't want to get. It was freezing
Carried
and I didn't
off to sea. Yeah.
And then one of my other good moments was the Pea Island Nature Center. We hit this as an accident.
Literally,
it was on the side. It was like
sideways into the parking lot.
It was really cool. And we came across the coolest docents.
Oh my goodness.
And
yes.
they have this window on the wetlands out there and you just bird watch and they have telescopes.
Yeah.
I always say microscopes. So that's why I stop myself because I have to correct it every time. The telescopes out there and these wonderful ladies were helping answer our questions and getting to know us and giving us tips and tricks. And it was just the coolest place. It
really was
awesome. And, the naturalist kid at heart that I am, I was like, well done, docents, way to do your job. And it was just, I thought that was one of the highlights for me is that place. It was really, really cool. Beautiful. I really like that. And then of course, Blackbeard's Last Stand Festival. TM. We went there for that. And you know what? It was everything you thought it was. And less.
Yeah.
But
there were a couple highlights.
Out of that, we found a really cool nature walk to see sound he died in. And that was a beautiful walk. It was an amazing walk. We did an impromptu family photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get, my traditional sunset on the beach picture of myself. It was
gonna say the timing we did it was just right.
It was just perfect. So kind of the
photos. Yeah.
The highlight of that was just kind of ending on that note. And it was really kind of cool that, we stumbled across that. And it was just, that was a good memory and a lot of fun with that. So those are my goods.
Right on. I have to echo a lot of what you guys had said. I have to admit that'd be because okay, well, fine. I'll just list the highlights for me. First off, going to Kitty Hawk, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because, I'm sorry, but Kitty Hawk, okay?
Right.
The place where the first powered flight occurred. The second thing that I really was hip on was the fact of, yes, going to the Outer Banks and actually seeing that portion of our country where there is a lot of deep history,
which we didn't hit a whole lot of, but that, you're right.
All we got was that sample of snippet. I want to do more.
Yeah.
It's that little snippets of history that's there. I mean, one of the little things that we saw was that there was a marker right before the shipwreck, the graveyard of the Atlantic, of this was a post on the Underground Railroad.
I know that was
which was
poignant.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that we didn't talk too much about is during the colonial times, there were a lot of runaway slaves that were hiding out on the Outer Banks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why some of that area is so vitally important.
Yeah.
So it's deep.
Deep in history.
Okay, it's very, very deep. The other thing that was important to me was figuring out a way to go and do the beach with a prosthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I figured out a way to do the beach with a prosthetic, and I was able to walk the sand on my prosthetic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big day.
That was a big.
That was a big day.
That was a big deal. I am very proud of myself, but I'll tell you that I did not allow myself enough recovery time. And it showed. It showed. There were certain points on our little road trip out to Ocracoke where I was in a bad way. I was in a real bad way. And it's just because the leg was sore from walking the sand. And that's about where that begins and ends. I was not as impressed with the Pirate Fest. I was not as impressed with Blackbeard's Pirate Jamboree Last Stand TM. It was more of a really low level Ren Fair.
I was going to call it a Ren Fair.
Yeah, because it was.
It was a local event.
Yeah,
it was
very
definitely
much.
local.
Very much.
No, we did have some highlights.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. The other thing that I really liked was the nature walk, the Sandy Point, or I can't remember the exact name. We'll put the exact name right here. The two reasons that it's important with Blackbeard is that was the location of his lair.
Right.
That was his hangout.
Yeah, his hangout. Yeah.
We found a well.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if it was his well.
No.
We found a well.
But
we also found a graveyard.
And we found a graveyard. The graveyard wasn't his. That one we could see names, but
yeah, which makes me think that the well wasn't his either.
Yeah.
But, anyway, that's neither here nor there. We did see the inlet where he did have his last stand.
Yeah.
Where he ended up, in my mind, honestly, wrongful death. Because it was entrapment. Pure and simple.
True.
But that's another story altogether.
He's a pirate.
I know. But it was one of those neat things of history where it's like, okay, that whole era of the golden age of piracy, this was part of it. This was a deep part of it. And one of the most pivotal characters or personas or persons was in that location.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. And there's his Jolly Roger back there behind
Edward
Kris.
Teach.
And when you think about all the shipwrecks, of course it's going to attract pirates because
sure.
There's
salvage
gold in that water. Yeah.
Well, it's the salvage thing.
Yeah.
It's all about the salvage thing. One of the other things that I really liked was the fact that I was falling in love with another state altogether that I didn't expect I was going to fall in love with.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect it. And I really want to see more of North Carolina.
I do too.
And I want to start heading west.
Yeah.
Oh, into the mountains?
Yes. Yes. Because those mountains are a lot older than the mountains here in Colorado. And I want to go spend some time there.
Yeah.
I mean, just because geology geek that I am, I want to go look at their rocks.
Well, and we almost literally flipped a coin as to whether we were going to go to the mountains or the beach.
We did.
And we chose the beach.
I'm glad we chose the beach.
I'm glad we chose the beach.
Because like the previous week is when they got hit by the hurricane in western North Carolina. And we would not have been able to do our trip. So
exactly.
We were just fortunate that we chose the east side of North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that big bad storm there was.
Helene, was it?
Yeah.
Helene, yeah.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now we get to talk about the bad.
I don't really have a whole lot of bad.
Well, and that's fine, but we still need to address it.
I had a couple of things.
Go ahead, Kris.
So for me, we wanted to see as much as we could in the 5 days. So my bads are things that we knew going in, but nonetheless, we're still kind of bummers, right? So for me, we had a lot of car time and not enough being tourists or beach time for me. I was also the driver, so it was all me driving. But that's okay, because otherwise I'm in the back seat being ill. So better that I'm the driver. And yes, I was thrilled that we got to see as much as we got to see in the car, but it was a lot of car time.
Yeah.
For a vacation. Kind of tying into that is that we weren't there long enough. It felt like 5 days was going to be a lot to cover what we wanted to cover. But as I've been saying this whole time, like, we just get somewhere and we have to leave. And it was like, oh, but I wanted to do yeah. So I guess it just means we all have to go back and maybe pick a specific island or something and stay put.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is, and again, we knew this going in, is because we were late in the season, some of the very seasonal places like the beachside bars were already closed for the season. Mm-hmm. And they look like they would have been a lot of fun. And since Kat had just turned 21, she was kind of excited to do something like that and have an adult beverage on the water. And it just wasn't possible because those places were closed for the season. So that was kind of a drag. And but like I said, we knew that was going to be the case going in. So those were my bummers.
Okay. All right, Alyce.
I'm going to echo the car time, and I think we got to the closest airport we could get.
Yeah.
But that was
there's no close airport to the other things.
Just drive. We had to drive 3 hours to get to the beach from Durham. So that, and I'm not a big car fan. I don't like to drive. So that was, I'll echo that. It was a lot of car time. But
and then to get from Ocracoke back, we had to literally go back up.
It was a 5-hour drive.
And then go the 3 hours.
So yes, we knew that going in, but you know what? The reality of it was, yes, it was what we thought it was going to be. And it was not.
Yeah.
It was not on the tops of the list.
No.
Another, I don't want to really call it bad, because we knew it was going to be kitschy, and we knew it was going to be hokey, and we knew it was everything we thought it was going to be and then less. Was Blackbeard's Last Stand Festival TM. So yeah, it was. I mean, you have people dressing up in the Party City pirate costumes and calling it good. However, there were some highlights with that, and I don't know if I'm going to steal your thunder, but there was a Living History Museum that had some really great.
Oh my goodness!
Artifacts and their knowledge was insane. So just standing and talking to them for a while and seeing the artifacts, and they worked, like they were workable things, and that they used them and they were going to shoot the guns off like they would. Like that was pretty cool. The reenactment for how they used to cook on the island, and how the pirates would do that, and giving some of that understanding of where barbecue came from in that region. Mm-hmm. And barbecue's huge in the South, if you know anything. Well,
especially in the Carolinas.
Yeah, and there's some history to it, and it's because the folks were grilling meat out, and so it just became part of the culture down there, and it started with these coastal peoples, which I thought was really cool. So that was and we'll just leave it there. I did think that the reenactment of the part one, we only saw part one for a reason. The reenactment of the battle in the bay and the talk by the expert.
He was good.
He was good. I learned a lot, and I thought that was very interesting. You call it entrapment. I'm like, okay. But 12 pirates against, I don't remember how many he said.
It was 15 pirates against 60.
I didn't think it was that many.
Yeah.
Anyway, none of the English soldiers were hurt. All the pirates were dead, including Blackbeard. So it was just an interesting kind of hearing of the history and hearing how that actually happened, because you have the mythology of it versus the written record of it. And was interesting. And he was very good. I didn't know what to expect out of him. So that was good. But
it was a pleasant surprise.
So. I was done after that. And it was cold. It was a little chilly that day.
Yeah, it was.
And it was, it was definitely the whole humid cold versus dry cold. And man, I got chilled all the way.
It was that wind coming right off the water.
Yeah.
and then right across
Yeah.
the island.
So, and then I agree. I think one of the bads is that I wish we could have gone back into Roanoke and actually done the Lost Colony stuff and learned a little bit about that history and the settling of this country via North Carolina and what really done the history nerd thing. That was kind of
the first American-born British descent was in that Lost Colony.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And her name?
Virginia Dare.
That's right.
Thank you. I'm like, I remember the mother's
Useless
name.
information for 400, Alex.
That's right. Again, Alice is if Alice and I get together and we actually team up on Trivial Pursuit, you're done.
It's deadly.
Okay.
Because we know a bunch of nothing.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Goes nowhere, but hey, we know it.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
But those are kind of my bad, and in the grand scheme of things, those aren't really bad things.
Right.
It was what it was. And there was some things like, okay, I don't ever foresee us going back to the Blackbeard Festival.
No. Mm-mm.
I don't think we ever do that again.
Not that one, but the one in Virginia.
Oh, there's another one. That is true.
And apparently the one in Virginia is bigger and better.
Okay, but we got to see where he died. So
yeah, that was the importance.
we were there. Yeah,
that was the importance of that because
and it was
we were in Ocracoke.
Yeah, the space.
And because I just spent the last 7 days watching all of Black Sails again, all 4 seasons. When they start mentioning Ocracoke, it's like we were there. Now the scenes that they show in the TV series of Black Sails, and they say "Welcome to Ocracoke," that's not Ocracoke.
It doesn't look like it.
No.
So no. Anyway, those were my bads. What were yours?
Okay, so my bads again do mirror a lot of what you guys talk about. The bads that I had was not pacing myself properly, not giving myself enough time between having the prosthetic on, having it off, and actually taking off everything rather than just popping off the prosthetic, propping up the leg and saying, well, okay, I'm here. That should be good. No, I needed to take off everything. I needed to power down out of it. The bad, again, was not planning enough for being on Ocracoke, and not paying attention enough to being on Ocracoke as far as, yeah, we fixed it, but all of us were a little on edge about everything that we were doing on Ocracoke.
Yeah, we were pretty tired by that point and setting each other off. So
yeah, that was something that was uncomfortable because I didn't like that. I don't like it when people are uncomfortable, and I don't like being the reason that people are uncomfortable. Kat did fantastic. She was on it. She was doing what she needed to do, and that was again just fantastic. I can't say enough good. The bad, I would say, wow, I'm actually struggling to find bad.
That's what I was thinking. Like, it was such a fun time.
Bad.
Like, these are kind of nitpicky things that are part of travel.
They are,
right.
but they exist.
They do.
So,
But it's travel stuff, not the destination where we were.
Well, yeah,
So nothing negative to say about where we were.
And
I couldn't find anything other than the hokiness of the Pirate Festival, but we knew that was the case.
It was exactly what I expected it to be.
Endless.
Yeah.
Okay, and it wasn't even endless. It was exactly what I expected it to be.
I thought there'd be more like vendors and things like crafty.
Oh, I knew there wouldn't.
I think there would be like more crafty things. I mean,
that's what I
was
thinking
world,
too.
you know.
Well, what you saw,
artisans, I guess, is what I'm. Oh no,
of. What you saw, it was glorified flea market and then reenactors.
Yeah, I mean there were a couple of good jewelers.
It was Ren Fair.
Good pottery.
Yeah, it was.
I'm always a sucker for pottery, and they had a couple of good potters that were there. But since we were flying, and I didn't want to purchase anything, but
that was the other issue that I had.
Got a bracelet, I think.
Yeah, but that was the other issue I had. I did not find anything cool. I was hoping that there would be vendors of garb and things like that of costumes, because, you go to these things and you kind of want to participate, you kind of want to dress up. And then I remembered, wait a minute, no, I'm in North Carolina. Not a lot of that happens. And the folks that do it bring their own stuff.
I thought the reenactors were superb. Since we do that for fun.
I was going to say, there were 3 of them there. I can't remember the names of them right off the bat, but there are 3 of them that I'm going to go online. I'm going to learn more about, because I believe it was Circle of Steel that really keyed, because when I saw the weapons and I saw the equipment and everything, it's like, hey, I know that. That's SCA. That's SCA armor requirements right there. I know those thrusting tips. I know what they're doing. A buckler, I know what a buckler is, and and I was all nerding out about the cooking and the candle making and and the doctor. Oh my goodness,
he was good.
He was
from the Living History Museum.
He was right next door to the other guys with the armory.
They were all the Living History Museum people.
Yeah, and those guys were
so good,
fantastic.
Yeah,
their garb,
right?
Oh,
they were. Fun. That was a lot of fun to stand there and talk.
All to them. Handmade, and I can tell. From what I do for fun, I can tell. But it was amazing. That was great. That was great. Yeah. I can't say enough good about that.
Yeah,
that was good. I could have spent more time there. I just didn't I didn't want to hoard the table.
So that was the other thing too. There were so many other folks around.
And it's like, we do this for fun. I know where to find it. I want them to influence somebody who's brand new to this whole.
Right. Moving on. Let's see. What else do we have to talk about?
Surprises.
Oh, yeah. What were your surprises, Kris?
My surprises, and we've probably touched on these already, except for one. You talked about Pea Island as one of your goods.
Good. Yeah.
I talked about it as a surprise because it wasn't on our plan at all. We saw this and it's like, oh, look, it's a visitor center. Let's go explore. And it turned out to be this really wonderful place. So to me, that hit as a surprise. And then Ocracoke, and I'm going to call them the hidden beaches. So this is also going to tie into another one of my surprises, which is how helpful and friendly everybody was. Even at the end of tourist season, when we live in a tourist state, we've all worked in the tourism industry. You get to the end of the season and you are baked, right? You're ready for these people to go home and leave you alone. And they were still incredible. And even other tourists that were at the resorts with us were friendly, and we were all having fun and helpful. But the hotel where we were in Ocracoke, I said, I was asking about details of where to find the beach, because when you're in the colony of Ocracoke, the beach isn't really visible. It's all the ports. And so he's like, what are your goals? And I'm like, I want to go find seashells. Okay, here's where you go. And so he talked about where we should have gone. And oh my goodness, we found more shells there than everywhere else combined, and had a marvelous time. We were the only ones out there. Okay, there were a couple of other people that showed up and talked to you, but I was like a mile down the beach at that point. And it was cold and windy, but we were ready for it by then. We'd gone back to the hotel and gotten our coats and things. And it was just so incredible. And it was right across from the ponies, the Ocracoke ponies. And so Alyce had a moment with the ponies. And so to me, it was quite surprising of those hidden beaches, because it sounds like they never really do get crowded, even in the height of season. And so that was a fun find. We left wanting more. And maybe that's the ideal vacation, is when you leave a place and you're like, oh, glad we're done with that. No, this was like, when are we going back? Yeah. When can we come back? But the other surprise for me was the Botanic Gardens at Duke University. So last night we stayed in Raleigh to make sure we could catch our flight. our flight was in the evening, so we had a lot of time to kill during the day, and we had other plans. They didn't work. We were all exhausted and grumpy with each other, and just kind of fell into the Botanic Gardens because it was like one of the
only things open.
I was going to say, don't try and do stuff on a Monday.
Nope.
People. There's nothing open. But it was open and it was beautiful. Mm-hmm. Even for, late in the fall, there were still lots of flower. I know it's because out here everything's dead, but in the South, and North Carolina isn't south, but it's south enough, I guess, where things are still blooming, and it was peaceful, and it was just a nice end to the trip. So to me, that was a surprise because we, again, didn't plan it at all. And the food. Mm-hmm. I was surprised by, I don't think we had a bad meal.
We didn't, no, yeah.
It was, and while the names of some of the places were a little silly, I can't remember the name of that seafood place we went. About crabs, crabs.
I got crabs. What was it called? Got crabs.
Dirty Days.
Oh, Dirty Days. Well, that was their
Dirty
slogan.
Dicks. Wasn't it Dirty Dicks?
I think
but
it was
his
Dirty
slogan
Dicks,
was, I got crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good food.
But it was
really
amazing.
Yeah, very tasty.
I think it was from the same people that do Joe's Crab Shack.
No, Landry's owns Joe's Crab Shack.
Well, okay. Well, it seemed a little too on brand.
Yeah.
So,
and Melanie had heard of it, so it is definitely a chain that goes much like outside of North Carolina.
Well, yeah, it started in Tampa, from what I understand.
Yeah,
it was good food.
So,
but it was very good.
We had good food. We had a great time, and it was
great
really
waitress,
fun.
and yeah, it was a really good time.
Right on. Okay, Alyce.
My surprise is, well, the big one is how much we loved it.
Yeah,
and how, like not going in. I've been to South Carolina. I've been to Georgia, Savannah. I've done the West Coast or East Coast of Florida, like all of that in there. Done all of that. So I was expecting a lot of that. But it was I really did fall in love with that part of the country, and I want to spend some time. Like I said, I want to go back and spend some time on Roanoke. I want to go back and do some of that, like some of the more of the deep history of. Oh, we need to go back and do Cherokee Indian stuff.
Very true.
Because of
very
our
true.
Great grandparents
yes.
being Cherokee,
well,
and we need to do that. Like that's another piece that I want to go back and hunt.
Exactly.
So it's just there's some things I'm left for wanting to go back, and that's a good thing.
And see, again, that ties into colonial history because there are some very, very deep ties.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To the Cherokee tribes with colonials. Yeah. So yeah.
I was also surprised with it goes back along with the line with the food, how easy it was easy to find food, but then it was not. Mm-hmm. Like we could find things to eat, but I think it had to do with the end of season. There wasn't an abundance of places open. But we were able to find really good places. So the little cafe right outside of our hotel where we had breakfast every morning, brilliant. Love them. Pony Island Cafe. Love you.
Best hash browns I've had in a long time.
Chef, it was so good.
Yep.
Is your Greasy Spoon Diner, and the family that ran it is just amazing. So good. Where we had our final dinner. Yeah. That fancy restaurant was really, really good. I can't remember the name of it, but it was really awesome. And like that, we just stumbled into that one. So, some of the surprises there where it was.
And it was their last night.
Yeah. So we found some really great things, but it was just kind of like not as facing forward that you thought you could be.
Right.
So those were my kind of a couple of my big surprises. Being in the tourism industry, and that's what I do for a living. And I get, because I have to work on all of the days, that side of it's frustrating, but also realizing that, I respect Mondays as a day of rest as well. Yeah. But you lost my business.
Yeah. Well, and
and it's like,
and who knows, in the height of season, things are probably open 7 days a week.
But The biggest surprise is how much I loved it.
Exactly. I agree.
Oh, and I found my new favorite lighthouse in the world.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I did. Bodie Island Lighthouse, or Body Island. Sorry. We'll make that a stop every time. I loved it. I want to do the nature walk. Oh, the other thing. I do have another surprise. The lack of wildlife.
Mm.
You know, we had dolphins out of our on Cape Hatteras. We had Kill Devil Hills. We had dolphins on the beach there, but the farther south we went, it was less and less and less.
It was more birds.
It was way more birds. And so it was just, and even like the wild ponies, and you know, I would have a little more. I didn't go looking for it either, so that's on me. But you know, it just was. It was a lot less than I had anticipated.
Well, and also remember, we were in a very crowded place.
Which place?
Well, all along where we were, it was still very crowded. A lot of people. Mm. It was very people-y.
Well, and if we'd done more nature walk, we may have found more, if not wildlife, more evidence of wildlife.
That's what I mean. I didn't go looking for it either.
Yeah. So again, a reason to go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your surprises.
My surprises. Again, I was surprised how well I did on the prosthetic. I did not expect any of that. I expected to be in a lot worse shape than I was. I'm surprised that my conditioning was better than expected. I got winded because I've been sedentary for almost 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. So, you know,
good thing we were at sea level.
Yeah, because I was kind of turbocharged. No, I did not get in the water. I wanted to get in the water, but I was surprised that I got to the beach.
That was an amazing day. That was
and
good.
I got my feet somewhat wet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I was happy about that. It basically, all this is now I'm going to be training harder and harder to actually use that prosthetic better. And then eventually I am going to see about getting a prosthetic that I can actually get in the water with and I can swim with, because I know they're making them. But I also know they're pricey. So, and I don't think that any of the American insurance will pay for anything like that. So, hey, sponsorships.
Hey, just 3D print yourself.
I wish.
Get some high school kid to do it.
The main surprise that I had was the emotional response that I had to actually getting to the end of that little nature trail on Ocracoke and sitting there looking out over the water, imagining exactly what happened back in 1718. That hit me harder than I expected. Because it's like, it made it more real. Much more real.
Yeah. And
so
Springer's Point. It's called Springer's
Point.
There you go.
Thank you, Alyce. Thank you.
And
but
you know, I know we talked about spooky stuff before Halloween, but there's a lot of spiritual residue on all of those islands.
Because a lot's happened there.
A lot has happened there. There's been a lot of history, good and bad. And so it's not surprising that when you go into a place that's immersed in so much history and
it's
violent and violent end, you know, to Blackbeard, that you may feel some of that.
Right. You know, and maybe I think it's more up here of what was happening with me. So
well, and I will say one of the surprises that I didn't talk about, like I knew the beach thing was going to be a thing because you were determined to make that happen.
You bet.
But you bet. The going on the nature walk on the uneven ground as far as you got, that was surprising to me.
I went all the way through it and then all the way back.
And
that you were able to do it, and we were determined to help you do it, but you didn't need the help. You did it.
So this is another Hallmark moment in my prosthetic journey, I'm actually on a nature walk with my prosthesis. So this is the first time I've been able to do this, and it's been a year and a few days since I was first amputated. Well, I probably should have been asking for help.
I know, but it was a thing. Right?
What? I know nothing about that.
Yeah, right. What? Here we are.
But I thought that was nice about it is that there were enough places to stop and rest.
That's true.
Which was why we did those impromptu photo shoots. Because we had some really beautiful places. I'm like, well, let me take your picture, and it forced you to like stop and rest and get some good things in there. And it was just the light was so beautiful, and the lighting was so beautiful in there.
I mean, okay, there's some of the video that I shot when the light coming through the trees. I mean, we were in that golden hour.
And
we really were.
Sunset, and it was so nice. And so that was a really cool little hike.
Yeah,
it was.
That was a really cool hike.
Yeah.
All right, so since basically a lot of my surprises echoed a lot of yours, and the surprises is basically revolving around my prosthetic and my use of the prosthetic. Yay me! Hooray! You know.
That's why it was first one.
Yeah, it was my first trip on it. And now, speaking about the prosthetic, we're going to be talking about TSA and what to do with TSA, the good, the bad, and the weird. Okay, so first off, if you have a prosthetic, if you use a prosthetic limb, such as for your legs, they do not require you to remove it. They cannot require you to remove it. Now, if you have a prosthetic arm, that's a different story.
Yeah.
That's a different story. I don't know all the particulars about that. I'm going to assume that since it's a part of you and it's a part of how you operate, how you maneuver, and how you work, they can't really ask you to limit yourself.
Right.
I was able to keep my shoes on because I made the statement that I cannot, for medical reasons, really take my shoes off, which is true. Oh, yes. Excuse me a moment. The manager wanted to talk to me for a minute. All right, we're back. Anyway, with your prosthesis, keep your prosthesis on. Do not go through the metal detector, because you will all of a sudden turn that whole TSA lane into the 4th of July. It'll be alarms and bells and beeping and everything, and all of the poor people in the blue shirts will be looking around going, what's going on? Because you are the guy that walked through the metal detector with a metal leg. So yeah, don't do that. Use the body scanner. They will help you out. They are going to pull you aside, though, for extra screening. And what that will entail is they will use a cotton swab. Here we go. They will use a cotton swab on your hands and around your prosthesis. And the reason what they're doing is they're looking for explosive residue. Here's a little tip, and I think I made this tip in the video. Okay. Be careful of the lotions and soaps that you use, because a lot of the lotions and soaps that are in use today contain glycerin. If you know anything about how explosives are made, glycerin is one of the key components in the explosives. It's a binding agent. So, with the glycerin, that sometimes will alarm if it's left on your hands. So dry your hands, wash and dry your hands thoroughly. That means when you're rinsing all the soap off, rinse all of it off. All of it.
Saying happy birthday twice.
Yes, exactly. So there is that. So the cool part was the good part was how quickly I got through.
Yeah.
I was lucky because the staff that I had both going out and coming back were knowledgeable, experienced, and
thorough.
Just amazingly fantastic.
Yeah, they were very thorough and quick, though efficient.
Yes. Yes, indeed. That was I wanted to film my process through TSA. That was impossible. And the reason is because all of our equipment that we were going to use to record was going through the X-ray.
Because it's supposed to.
Yeah. By the time I was done, it was just coming out.
Yeah, you were
That's
faster.
How quick.
Yeah. It was way faster than the rest of it.
And it was like, oh my Lord. So, I was thinking it's like, okay, Alyce should go ahead and go through first. We'll get all of that done. Alyce did go through first, but, here I am putting everything back on and all finished. And, there I am.
And I didn't even have my shoes on.
Right.
I just had to grab my camera real quick, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, here we go. And I have one of the foldables, so I put it on my leg. And so I was still rummaging around, and that's how we got the footage that we got. But it was so fast.
You are allowed to film through TSA as long as you are not taking any video of the monitors or any of the equipment that can show what's being scanned. Okay. As long as you don't do that, you're fine. The bad, again, that was part of the bad. I did want to film, so we didn't get the chance to. There are several ways that this trip through TSA can go very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There are several ways. And usually it involves with staff that is inexperienced with people that need assistance.
And accommodations.
Yeah. That's usually what will happen. So, it's a roll of the dice. Sometimes, and there it is. The weird was, it was truly weird because going through, it's like I'm sitting here and I'm sweating bullets about this because my experience before I was an amputee was taking people in wheelchairs through TSA and being the calming voice of, this is what they have to do.
It's all right.
This is okay. Anyway, that's the weird. Other than that, I think it was fantastic. No notes other than that.
It was normal.
Yeah, it felt much more normal.
Very normal.
That's the weird part. It felt more normal than it should have.
Well, and the other thing too that you were really good about, and having the background that you have, is you were very forthright and communicated very clearly your needs, which helped TSA do what they needed to do to get you through quickly, efficiently, kindly, all of that. So I
would not have had that knowledge had I not had the job I had before. Yeah. And that's what I want to try to help you folks out with, and especially those of you who are watching this. And if you are a fellow amputee or you have some mobility challenges, be forthright, be clear,
communicate
be honest, tell them everything that is pertinent. Okay, don't tell them everything because you're telling.
Amputated.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't start. It's like, well, okay, what do you need? Well, back in 2022.
Like, no,
you don't start there. Okay, yeah.
So your experience is probably a little different.
Yes,
it is.
Prosthetic is not seen.
Correct. So I have a mastectomy on my left side, which I did not get reconstructed. So I have an external prosthetic in my bra. And actually, our trip to North Carolina, it was not an issue at all. They didn't even notice. But often at DIA, we've got the scanners where you stand, with your arms like this, and you have to, do the X-ray thing. That catches it because it's a cold spot where there shouldn't be a cold spot. So I have a big old cold spot on my left side, which means I get extra scanning. Yeah.
Asked
but
questions.
Again, knowing what I know now, and because I travel for work not infrequently, this happens a lot. And so now I just, as I'm walking through, say, I have a prosthetic on my left side. And so I know that you're going to see that. And they do, and they pull me aside. And of course they ask if I want to do it in private. And I'm like, no, there's nothing there. Go for it. It's fine. But it's always, they always make sure it's a female who does the extra scan and all of that. And I'm like, see, it's just cushion. It's fine. And so that's that was that experience. Yeah, it ended up being but this time, if it's just the normal X-ray, because it's not metal, it was not a problem. They didn't even notice. So, yeah.
And there we are.
But again, just communicate to the
Exactly.
PSA agents what's going on.
Exactly. Tell them, talk to them.
Mhm.
Okay. They can't help you if they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the important part. This is not something that you need to hide.
No.
No.
And there's no
Not
shame
something
in
you
it
need to
either.
hide.
It's just part
Exactly.
of things.
Yeah. Especially those with prosthetics. It's a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Case in point, we just had, for Thanksgiving, a bunch of our extended chosen family came out.
Yeah.
All the little ones.
Oh my goodness.
Well, especially those that actually could walk and understand what was going on. I sat down and had them all come and look at my leg because it was something different. It was something new. And I think, Everett sort of keyed in on it because I kind of joked at him and said, see, I'm part droid. And he was like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
Like that part.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Uncle Chuck's a weirdo and a real weirdo now. So, yeah.
But normalizing it for the kids is a really great thing.
Yeah. Little Mikey wanted to boop my
it,
stump.
yeah.
I wanted to boop my stump.
It's a fun little game.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of his parents.
Actually, his
And-
pops
oh,
was like, Tom
oh.
was like, oh, and I'm like, you're like, no, it's
I
good.
know. And Lynette started getting into
Yeah,
it.
it's
like,
like,
well, don't
yeah.
let him do that. And it's like, no, it's okay. It's
I think
okay.
they were worried it was hurting you
Oh.
because they're not quite sure how tender that is anymore, and it's just not,
Right. And
yeah.
I told him, it's like, I've got a 1/4 inch of neoprene over the top of this.
all
He's
good.
not going to hurt
No.
me. And then, of course, I'm sorry, Mike and Lauren. I know. You told him no, and I
You
did
encouraged it.
I did the Papa thing.
You did the bad uncle.
Yeah, I did it. I kept it going, and
It was fun. And
The
he was
fun
laughing,
people.
and it was a good
Yeah.
sound.
oh, it was a great sound. Yeah, little Mikey and I were having a great time.
It's a good time.
But anyway, that was something that we did there. Is I tried to normalize this as much as possible because it is now me.
Exactly.
It's part of me. It's part of who I am. And honestly, yes. Everybody was saying that I take it very well. I'm doing very well with this. You're taking this whole thing very well. Guys, I'm okay with trust. I'm really okay with it. Okay.
So much healthier now than you were before.
Yeah, I'm not sick.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sick anymore.
Mm-mm.
And that's the happier thing for me is like I'm not struggling to maintain weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not struggling to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a fever anymore.
Right.
I don't feel fatigued
Mm-hmm.
anymore or as much.
Right.
I'm winded and fatigued because I've been spending the last 2.5 years sedentary, not really moving around all that much. That's going to be changing as of the new year.
Yeah.
So
For both of us, we've both been.
Well, long story short, we're going back.
Oh, we
For
certainly
sure.
are.
We will be going back to North
We
Carolina.
certainly
And
are.
we will be
So-
exploring some things. We're going to do our Cherokee heritage,
Yes.
and trying to find more about that, and
Indeed.
More in Roanoke.
more in Roanoke,
More in Hatteras, and
more colonial history. More
Yeah,
of
and
that.
I want to go do the deep dive on colonies.
Yeah,
I really do.
there's
I
some
wanna do
inland
that.
stuff for that too, right?
Oh, there's
around
some.
Raleigh, Durham, and
Oh yeah.
all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much
there's
around there too.
there's some. It's just we need to go back. We're going back. We're going to be North Carolina. Here we come.
You haven't seen The Last of Us.
In more ways than one.
Ah.
We've been talking.
Yeah,
We've been talking.
Well, we have people there.
Yeah.
we do.
We have people there,
Yeah.
so that's nice. Where we have some
Yes.
folks to help.
Yeah,
so.
a friend of mine moved there several years ago, and I was able to have dinner with her and her mom. Unfortunately, her husband wasn't able to come. Well, we all did, and you found a connection with her mom.
Her mom. I
Small
have
world.
a bed. I have a bed and a meal coming my way when I go to North
That's right.
Carolina,
And they're
Yeah.
on Oak Island, which is further south than the Outer Banks, and
Yeah.
so we'll have to go explore Oak Island. Then.
Mrs. Ruth's mom is gonna let me stay at her house.
That's right.
Exactly.
So fun
Well-
trip, very fun trip. So thanks for going with me.
Oh, thank you for coming and thank you for just
Yeah.
the whole fun.
So much fun.
All right, folks. So that's it for tonight. And Merida has been trying to push us because she knows that we're over an hour. Next episode, Christmas in Colorado.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. After that one, I think we need to start doing a little bit more deep dives about Denver and individual parts of Denver.
Okay.
After the new year, I am already going to say it. Stock show.
Okay.
We're going to talk stock show.
Are you ready to go this year?
I think I might be.
Okay.
I think I might be.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. You're excited about it.
Love me some horses and pigs.
And cows.
Sheep.
And cheap cows.
And goats.
Yay, and the goat. Yes.
I love goats.
Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. It will be a couple weeks, yes?
Yes.
And we will do Christmas in Colorado. All right, but again, thanks for coming along.